We went longer than we normally do, and that's because a lot of our guys stayed over in summer. So they're ready to go. They're in better football conditions. So we felt like we can extend practice about 30 or 40 minutes extra with the helmets only. So excited, energy, mistakes, all the stuff we're gonna say every day. But I thought it was energetic. I thought our guys that are older led from the get-go. We had to restart some things, and that's normal this time of year. But hopefully fine-tune some things and start taking steps forward each and every day. But good plays on both sides, bad plays on both sides. It's first day in helmets. They're getting to be out. Everybody's anxious. Now we got one done, and now everybody's a college football player.
From camp to camp, do you change anything based on results from the season prior when it comes into a fall camp, and how much of that gets adjusted for this specific year?
Well, it's kind of like the momentum factor. When people say, well, you won the last 3 games of the year, you had a good run in the postseason. I mean, that doesn't factor for this team. It's a new team. So I really am a firm believer in who you have is what you do, and then how you do it. So we are in good shape. We're in good football shape. Coach Groneman did a great job over summer getting these guys ready to go. We have a truncated summer with only about 6 weeks because we're a quarter school. So I don't know if that's a plus or a minus, but we get out of conditioning, and then a week later we get back in. And then we give them a little bit of time off. So we will always tweak. We always do what's best. Sometimes those are daily tweaks. Sometimes those are weekly tweaks, and sometimes those are annual tweaks. But we came out. First day is always kind of first and second down base stuff. They've been doing it all summer, so trying to sprinkle in some of the stuff to keep them excited as they get into practice, and then conditioning them a little bit in between to get a feel for what a game like's going to be. Because before you know it, it's going to be on us. So all in all, it was a solid first day, but it's always about the next day. Take care of your body, your mind, your sleep, and get back at it tomorrow.
Coach, you've got, 8 or 9, maybe more guys who have transferred in over the summer and are here. I'm curious, what kind of impact do you expect them to make on this team?
Well, I think they've already made an impact because a lot of those guys were here over summer. So I kind of resort back to summer. That develops continuity right away. So we're not meeting each other for the first night, last night. And that includes our freshmen, which aren't transfers, but they're transferring from high school to us. And so it's all new. So when you have close to 90 guys all summer out of your 110 that you bring in, I mean, you're cooking. Your relationship building. And so those transfers have done a good job. Some of those guys got here earlier than others, but most of them were here for bits or all of the summer. So impact, we'll see when we get pads on. I'm always wait till we get pads on, wait till we get into situational football to see kind of how those guys perform. Because movements are movements, but that's not what time on the clock. That's not with a scoreboard. That's not with a 4th down situation. So this is football. Movements are paramount in football, but movements and choice making in those tough situations are really what separates good from great. So we brought them in to be impactful. How impactful they're going to be is yet to be determined, but we're excited about their growth so far.
We know that the expectations for the program don't change, but you've touched on this. Can you expand on how you mentally shift from last season to this one?
Well, I think it's less about us as a program from the get-go. It was more about the seniors and the veterans that were on the team from January until now. And make no bones about it, this is not a coach speak moment. They've done more in the last 7 months than we ever had together, whether it be player run practices, whether it be meetings, whether it be DNA meetings, that they are invite only to start with. The buy-in's been spectacular. I don't really like the word buy-in, but just the belief has been better. But that doesn't equate to wins. Just because you have a great off season, you can win the off season and lose a bunch of games. You can lose the off season and win a bunch of games. But it gives us a better chance, a more successful, or chances at success because of the stuff we've done or they've done from January until now. So we're only a variable of it as coaches. They've directed us in a lot of ways to fit kind of their needs too. So it's kind of a two-way street from a coach's perspective, from a player perspective, and kind of meshing that together. But it's been fun, and there's been some tough moments, which has been good. And those started back in January. We did a lot of off-season training, more than we ever have, not just in the weight room, but we needed to challenge the mentality of this football team in January and not wait until February or March. We did that. They rose to the occasion. Nothing's perfect. Nothing ever is. But they've grown physically, number one, but maybe more importantly, they've grown mentally because they've gotten through this stuff together, and they've stayed together through the process. So we shall see. But you're right. The expectations were laid a long time ago with Coach Kramer, Coach Wolf, and then enhanced by Coach Baldwin. I mean, it's a storied program. You can't argue that. We had a down year, and that may be the best thing for us when it's all said and done. You don't win because you've won, and we got to get that through to ourselves. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a little luck. It takes opportunity. It takes preparation. It takes guys not being injured. There's a lot of variables to what goes on Saturdays. So we've taken necessary steps to get to that point. We feel good about where we're at, but we're far from a finished product.
Going back to what you said about player-led practices, I noticed Jacob Newsom running the snap count and coaching up some of the guys during individual drills. Is that something that you can coach into guys to be a leader, or is it something that has to come from within them?
I think being a leader, there's different leadership elements. Some guys are more vocal leaders. Some guys are more lead by example leaders. But you've got to have a blend of both. If you only lead by example, if no one's watching, no one knows you're leading. If you're only doing it vocally, then no one that's watching is knowing you're leading. And I've always said that. Cooper Kupp and I went back and forth about 6 or 7 years ago, and I had an aha moment with him. He said, "Man, you got me, coach," because he's a lead by example guy, and we got a lot of those guys. But a lot of people tend to say I lead by example. Well, if no one's watching, they won't know. So there's got to be a blend. You got to find kind of your blend and what you lean on. Maybe you're more vocal, but you got to add the non-vocal piece to it. Jacob Newsom was a guy that didn't talk a ton before he got here, and now he is. That's part of growth. That's part of development. That's part of the things we see as coaches that is so powerful that you only see them with their helmets on and their shoulder pads worn. We get to see when they go get their backpack on. We get to see when they get dropped off by their parents at 18 years old and go to college for the first time, and then all of a sudden 3 years later, 4 years later, they're coaching guys when 4 years ago their teeth were chattering when they talk to some older guys. Those are things that aren't in the win-loss column. Those are things you know that you're being a part of someone's growth, a part of an 18 to 23-year-old's growth, which is way more important than the scoreboard. It is. Everybody wants to know the score on Sundays, but that's fine, that's good, and that's what I guess our report card is as coaches. But our report card to us is seeing those guys grow, to marry, to have kids, to have significant others, to make the world a better place. And he's making our team a better place because he stepped out of his comfortability zone and said, okay, this needs to get done. If it needs to get done, no one's doing it, why not you? And he's taking it upon himself, not just him, but many others. And it was uncomfortable, but you don't grow in uncomfortable moments. Or in comfortable moments, you only grow in uncomfortable moments, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're making decisions, you're telling people where to go, and then I look at Jake and go, now you know what it feels like to be a father. Now you know what it feels like to be a husband. Now you know what it be to coach, because everybody's got opinion when you lead. So when you step up, you got to know that not everybody's going to agree with your message, but you got to be confident about the message you deliver, and he's done a great job. And his Saturdays speak for themselves. He came from a walk-on, now full scholarship player, and he's had that chip on his shoulder. So he's going to teach it because he's learned it and he's produced from it. So if they can take some from him, we're all going to be better because of it.
Coach Jaron mentioned kind of the defense coming out a little sluggish at the very beginning and then working into it. He mentioned that at times last year you were a second half team. Is there a way to kind of, get energy from the very beginning? I know we talked about this last year, but, for it to come up again today, just what are some of the things you want to work on these next couple weeks?
Everything. I mean, energy is one thing on a laundry list of things, as all coaches this time of year. There's no magic answer to that question. I think some of it is there were some transfers never practiced on a field. What is stretch look like as a team? What does play ball period look like? What does team run, team RPO? What does Indo look like with coaches around with helmets on? With the high school guys, I think we had more transfers on that side that weren't with us in spring. They're feeling it out. Come back in 4 or 5 days, and I won't have the answer, but I'll have a better answer. But that's where it all starts. Defense is the energy side of the football. You know what I'm saying? And the least energetic people on the team should be the tackles, the guards, and the centers. They've got to conserve their energy. I don't know how many times over the years, Coach, how come you're because we're trying to make sure we have enough energy in the fourth quarter. We can't be rah-rah up front on O-line, but defense, that's part of your DNA. That's part of what it is. That's part of the swag factor. That's part of the believability. That's part of making plays and telling everybody you made the play, and then everybody else celebrate because of it. So I think that's part of it. The helmets piece doesn't. We want to make sure we stay on. Once we get the pads, once we're playing quote unquote real football, then those things can be maybe answered easier. But at least we're playing the second half. So if we didn't show up in the first or second half, we'd have issues. Now we just got to build before to get to latch onto that third and fourth quarter mentality. But it does start, and it does start in camp, and it does start with some of the situational drills that we have. And once we get to scrimmages, getting a feel for starting fast, staying fast, and then ending strong at the end of the day.
And another first day of fall camp for you, does it ever get old?
Never gets old. When you like something, I mean, it's the same thing if you ask, we're not at 27, my wife and I, but we're at 16. 16. If all of a sudden the 16th isn't as fun, I don't know if you're doing it for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is, I guess, 26 or 27 or whatever it is camps. What I always tell guys, it's everybody's first camp as a freshman. Everybody's. So we've got to be a freshman every single year, because if we act like we've done at 27, they're juiced up to have their first camp. They're like, does he really love his job? Is he really tied to me? Well, how come 10 years ago? I mean, we get older, but our energy can't stop. It's exciting. No different than recruiting. We recruit 18-year-olds every year. So it's got to be exciting for us. If it's not exciting for us, you probably want to look in the mirror and say, I don't know if this is for you. So yes, it's always exciting. You get older, your hair gets a little grayer. Banks's doesn't get grayer, it goes the opposite. There's having fun with that stuff, but if you're not looking forward to this day, I mean, I don't know if it's right for anybody, because we spend so much time around each other. You can only fake it so long, so it's like anything. Real recognizes real, and the longer you can stay real, the better chance you have to connect those 18 to 23s.